back to my channel. My name is V. Welcome. So today we are going to be talking about my experience on birth control. I think it's important that we talk about these types of issues, especially when it comes to periods, because it's something that's like super misunderstood. And I think it's really important for people to understand like how bad it actually can be and how bad it actually can get, because this has not been a good experience for me. I just want to talk about it. Honestly, I just really need to talk about it as I continue to process this whole experience. If you're new here, I am autistic. I also have ADHD. I have been in autistic burnout for the last like 2 years, in and out. And recovery is something that I would love to experience at some point in the future. Will I ever? We don't know. I'm also going to be coloring a pretty picture just to keep me occupied while I tell you this story. Usually my periods were not that bad. Like, I would get a lot of cramps. A lot of the times it would be cramps that I couldn't, just take 2 Tylenol or whatever for and have them be gone. I also get the butt cramps. You know which cramps I'm talking about. Those ones, yeah. I get those. And medication doesn't always help. So I was on birth control before to try and, make them not as bad. And it actually did kind of help with the cramps. Like, I could take, like, they were still like unpleasant, but if I took, the recommended dose of Tylenol or whatever, I would be okay. That's basically been my experience. And then I stopped the birth control back in May. It wasn't that bad, but again, like, I was still having cramps that I would have a really hard time getting rid of with, just my regular over-the-counter medication unless I take more than the recommended dose, which, like, obviously you don't really want to do for a prolonged period of time because it's not good for your liver. Then back in like September, October, I want to say, like, it wasn't that long ago, but I noticed that it just started to get a lot worse. Like, my cramps got worse, and like even when I would take Tylenol, like, I would still feel them pretty bad. And even if they did go away and I got some relief, I would just like feel really sick. My moods were all over the place. I was exhausted. My insomnia just gets worse. My ADHD has been getting worse whenever I'm on my period. So it's just been like a bunch of things where I'm just kind of like, everything is just like sort of worse on my period. Like, what's going on? I need some help. So I finally got back into the doctor for January last month, because it's already February, which is crazy. I wasn't necessarily looking to get back on birth control, but I was more so just looking for any explanation as to what I've been feeling. And so I finally go into the doctor. I tell her kind of like what's been going on. Maybe I wasn't as clear and concise as I needed to be about like the things I was experiencing on my period. I'm autistic, so I have a really difficult time at the doctor really explaining like what is going on and how it's affecting me very clearly. And eventually at some point at the doctor, usually I am just so exhausted of masking and smiling and being pleasant that I just not like shut down, but I'm just like, yeah, nope, I'm fine. They're like, is there anything else? And like, there will be something else, but I'm just like, no, that's it, I'm fine. Like, I just want to leave. I just want to go home. And then I leave feeling frustrated. At this appointment, I didn't leave feeling frustrated. She put me back on the birth control because she was like, well, you were on that before and we didn't seem to have these issues that you're having now, so let's do that and then we'll see, how that goes. It's supposed to be the same pill but a different brand. And so I start taking it, and like that first week, it was like immediately like I was feeling weird, but I didn't know like what it was. I didn't really attribute it to the birth control because like I've also been experiencing autistic burnout. And so, it's kind of a lot of things that just are going on in general in my brain all the time, every day. So it was like, okay, like that's not that weird that I'm like in this state of like derealization where like time doesn't feel real and it feels like a distant memory, everything that I'm experiencing, even if it was like just that morning. And again, like I was experiencing derealization last summer because I was really stressed out after moving. So it's like I just figured there's probably something that's stressing me out, and I really don't even think I thought that deeply about it the first week. I was just kind of like, I feel kind of weird, but it's fine, it's no big deal. So then the following week, I am still feeling really weird. So one of the things that I was experiencing, I don't really know if I'm going to be able to articulate this well, but it just felt like little things were happening. Like at work, I walk dogs for a living. And it's been like snowy and wet and icy and slippery. So I was out walking some dogs and they pulled the leash and I fell. And like it felt like that was another push, because like for me being autistic, like typically when I have a meltdown, it's because like so many things have happened that I have dealt with and I just get to a point where I can't deal with it anymore. But it's like that happening felt like it could send me into a meltdown, but like it felt like there was nothing behind the surface of the meltdown that I felt bubbling up. Like if you imagine like a big dam, and like typically dams have water behind them, so like if you start seeing cracks in a dam, like you're gonna be worried. But it felt like there were cracks in the dam, but there was nothing behind the dam. There was nothing that it was holding back, so it was just gonna break and there was going to be nothing there. That's how it felt. Turns out it was actually just a tsunami. The following week, Tuesday, I had a meltdown in my car because I was trying to set up the dog gate that I needed. Mind you, I had to go to work. Like, it was 8 o'clock in the morning. I was getting ready to leave and go walk my first dog, but I had to put the dog gate up first because obviously it's like very dangerous for them to just like, you know, be able to get into the front, for them and for me driving. Had one and I was trying to put it up, but it just wasn't making sense to me, and then parts of it were breaking, and I was just getting really, really frustrated, and I just couldn't hold it back anymore, and it felt like there was nothing there. It felt like there was no meltdown to be had, but then, like, I just started having a meltdown anyways, and it actually turned out to be a very bad meltdown because, like, even though I only cried for, like, 10-15 minutes, that kind of really broke my brain. Like, that really set everything off because I'm already feeling very volatile because of the birth control and what it's doing to my hormones. And, you know, when I'm on my period, I'm so much more susceptible to emotional dysregulation, and it's a lot harder to regulate myself because it's less of like just in my brain and more so like my actual hormones are out of whack, and that's why I feel so dysregulated. Like, it's really hard to bring yourself back from that because it's like there is no trigger, there's nothing for me to remove. The only thing that I could remove is the hormones in my body. I feel like I do feel more prone to meltdowns when I'm on my period lately because of how I feel my period. Everything is already on 10. So then you add like something small in there, yeah, it's going to trigger an autistic meltdown because the autism is stress. My brain is overwhelmed, whether like there's like an actual reason for that or not, but it is. And so I had that meltdown on Tuesday because I was frustrated because the thing wasn't working, and you know I was already feeling overwhelmed and stuff. Didn't end up going to work. I told him I slipped and fell outside in the ice because it was so last minute and I felt bad, but obviously I couldn't go to work. Like, it wasn't safe for me to go to work, especially working with dogs. Like, I need to be able to be like on so that like I'm aware of like what's going on around us for their safety and for my safety and for the safety of anybody else around us. And I couldn't do that because like I literally came home and I laid down. Like, I laid down on the couch for hours because like I just couldn't move because I felt like if I did move I was going to hurt myself more than I already had while I was having the meltdown in the car. And I didn't, like, I wanted to, obviously, like, because in that moment, like, I just wanted to feel something other than what I was feeling inside. But, you know, I obviously didn't, like, actually want to do that. Like, I don't want to hurt myself. I don't, you know, want to relapse and do that. So I just laid on the couch horizontal for hours, just, like, trying to get the urge under control. And it was really difficult, and anytime that I thought like any deeper about like what I was feeling beyond like a surface level, I just felt like I was going to lose it again. Like, the tears were immediately like in my eyes the second I thought about like, oh my god, I'm so overwhelmed right now. It was just like immediately I'm going to start crying again. And then I ended up almost having another meltdown in the evening because one of the cat toys was beeping, but we didn't know what it was or where it was. All we could hear was it beeping. And I was already overstimulated and overwhelmed. So I'm like sitting there over my spaghetti about to damn near cry because the thing won't stop beeping. It was not good. But then, like, you know, I made it to work on Wednesday and Thursday, and then Friday I got sick, so that was fun, like physically ill. Then we went away for the weekend, and I wasn't feeling good the whole time. So then now it is Tuesday again. We got back on Monday. Oh wait, no, just kidding. That was after. Okay, wait, I screwed up my timeline. Sorry, I've been in derealization, so I really don't know what day it is. We went on our trip, and then I had that meltdown on Tuesday. But I already wasn't feeling well. So I had that meltdown, and, you know, I was kind of already starting to realize that the birth control was making me feel weird. I was like, that it has to be the birth control because, like, there's really nothing else going on, and, like, you know, I started to get, like, depressed and, like, super anxious. But again, I'm outside walking dogs all day. Like, I'm getting, like, 8,000 to 10,000 steps a day. Like, I'm outside at least 3 days a week. So there's no way that I'm, like, just, like, actually just depressed, because, like, these are things that would help me if I was actually depressed. You know, I would start to feel a little bit better. But, like, I was self-aware enough to know that, like, this is what I'm feeling right now. And, like, these are the thoughts I'm having, but, like, these aren't my thoughts. Like, I don't feel this way. I don't really want to be dead. Usually there's a trigger for them. Usually something's going on. Usually there's something I can stop. But in this event, there wasn't, because it was the birth control. By the weekend, I was realizing that I was just having a lot of really negative, bad thoughts. Like, I would convince myself that my partner was mad at me. Well, first I would convince myself that I was mad at him. And it would just start off of something dumb, because, like, I'm already overstimulated, so, like, he's making noise, which is, like, perfectly normal, because, like, yeah, you exist, that obviously. But, like, he would, like, be making a noise or something. It's, like, immediately rage inside of me. And it's, like, I don't genuinely feel that way. Like, obviously, like, you exist, you do what you gotta do. Like, you know, I get overstimulated, but I'll just put my headphones on or whatever. But, like, I would just be, like, angry. And I would convince myself that I was mad at him over something stupid, but then, like, my anxiety would get so high, because, like, my fight or flight is literally being triggered, because, like, my heart would be pounding. Like, that's how, like, angry that I was getting, is my heart is, like, literally pounding. But then my anxiety would get bad, and then I would convince myself that he actually was mad at me and hated me. He'd be like, well, he hasn't kissed you in 10 minutes, but the last time he did, he gave me a kiss and he said, I love you. And then he went to go do something, but then he walked away and he hasn't been back in here for an hour, so clearly he must hate me. And that was, like, just the thought process I'm having. But I'm like, I know that obviously doesn't really make any sense, because why would that be the case? I don't know. So that was happening really badly on Saturday, and that was really when I was like, okay, I think I need to stop taking the pill. But I took it again on Sunday. You know, and obviously in that moment, like, I was mentally ill. I wasn't really in a place to make that decision for myself. I'm not, like, absolving myself of making the decision, but I made it from the point of being mentally ill, of being affected by the birth control. It was more of a, like, self-harm kind of a thing, like, sad to say. Like, it was like oh, well, I'm gonna take this because I don't want to feel better. Like, I want to feel bad. And, like, I regretted it after, because I was like, well, that's one less day that it would have been in my system. But, you know, in the moment, that's how I was feeling. I was feeling really bad. And I wanted to hurt myself, and so that was what I did. Sometimes self-harm is doing things that intentionally aren't good for you. Sunday, the urges that I was having, like, I'm pretty sure that I put a passive trigger warning, but here's a trigger warning that I'm about to talk now about more suicidal thoughts. I won't go into detail about, like, what they are or anything like that, but just, like, as a heads up, I'm going to say it. But Sunday was when the like, the ideation was really bad. Like, I could feel it, like, physically in my body. Like, it just kept coming over me, like, in waves, and it was just, like, this feeling of, like, impending doom, and, like, just dread would just, like, steam pile over me, and I could feel it, like, in my chest, and it, like, physically made me just, like, want to curl up into a ball and just lay there, because, and then I felt okay. I didn't feel great, but I felt all right. And then Monday, I called the doctor, because, you know, they always tell you to call your doctor if, like, you have those symptoms on a birth control. And so I was like, let me call the doctor and, you know, just kind of let them know. And so at first, the person who picked up the phone was like, okay, well, I'll just have one of the triage nurses give you a call back. And I was like, okay, yeah, sure, that's fine. He's like, what, like, are the symptoms that you're having? Because he was going to take notes. And I was like, yeah, it's giving me, like, suicidal thoughts. And I think I said, like, dissociation. And this is, like, again, Part of the reason why I want to share so many of my experiences as an autistic person is because I want people to see that just because I might seem to be high functioning to you, there are a lot of things that I struggle with, and dealing with doctors is one of them. It's something that I didn't even realize that I really struggled with until now, but I'm realizing that there's just been this pattern my whole life of me going to the doctor, not getting the help I need, and feeling disappointed because I feel like I didn't get to explain everything that was wrong with me. But in the moment, I literally, like, I physically can't. Like, I have a really hard time doing it. I feel like I had a really hard time over the phone kind of articulating everything that was going on, and that probably kind of led to them panicking as much as they did, because I explained that I was having suicidal thoughts, and the person on the phone was like, is it like active? And I was like, I mean, you know, they're just kind of thoughts. Like, I don't have a plan or anything, but, you know, like, I'm just having the thoughts because I'm like, again, you tell people to call the doctor if they're having those thoughts. I'm just thinking they're going to tell me to stop taking the birth control and make an appointment to see my doctor so that, you know, we can talk about something else. At first was like, I'm going to take down notes or whatever. But then after I said suicidal, he was like, oh, actually, I'm just going to put you on hold. So then he did, and then the nurse came on the phone and we talked for a while, and she seemed very worried about me. She was like, okay, I'm gonna give you the crisis hotline number. I don't want you to wait until 5:30 for an appointment, so I'm gonna get you in here at 11:45. In that respect, you know, like, obviously, like, they got me in and stuff, but it was just really pointless. And because of the fact that I am autistic, and, you know, I was already feeling bad, and I already told you that, like, I've been feeling this, like, build up, but it's like there's nothing there. Yeah, this was what the build up was leading up to. So I agreed to go to the doctor because she's like, yeah, we'll get you in. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, you know, I didn't expect them to really do anything for me. I figured they would just tell me to stop taking it. But then when she was like, we'll make an appointment, I was like, okay, cool. Well, like, maybe there is something that they can do for me or something. Because, like, I obviously don't want to feel like this while I wait for the medication to leave my system. And also, when I stop the medication, I'm going to get my period. So, like, I'm just going to be in distress for God knows how long until everything goes back to normal inside my body, right? So I go to the doctor, and it's a man, and so, again, I already have a really hard time articulating myself at the doctor in general, so then you give me a male doctor, and I'm especially going to have a harder time articulating myself because I feel more comfortable in certain situations with specific people or specific genders. So at a doctor's office, I don't feel comfortable having any type of a male doctor, to be honest with you. Like, I don't want to have any correspondence with a male doctor. I don't want to speak to a male doctor. Like, when it comes to my health, I don't fucking want a man. Just don't feel comfortable with that. That's all they had. So I was like, okay, you know, I'll push through because maybe I'll get some help. All he did was tell me, yeah, I don't really know what else I would tell you besides just to stop taking the pill. He tried to get me, though, because he tried to 5150 me. I know he did, because he asked me specifically, like, oh, like, well, what have you been thinking as far as, like, you know, how you would do it? I was taken aback. Like, I was still, like, thinking, as I'm thinking it to myself, I'm like, there's no way he actually, like, asked me that. But, like, he did, and I was like, that's a trap. Like, that's a trap question. Because you're trying to get me to admit that I have a plan, which means I'm actively suicidal, which means I need to be committed. No. Yes, I did think about how I would do it, but no, I'm not going to tell you that. And then he told me that he was going to have me talk to the behavioral specialist, which I thought was a psychiatrist, but I guess it's just their therapist. He said that he was going to get her for me to talk to, and I was like, okay, well, you know what? At the very least, I can leave this having spoken to somebody who at least might know something a little bit more about, like, the mental stuff that I'm experiencing. So after me sitting there for 20 minutes, and he had come back and told me after 10 minutes that she would be free in, like, 6 minutes. He came back 10 minutes later and was like, sorry for the confusion. We're just going to have her reach out to you later. And I was just so frustrated because I felt like in that moment, I had not only wasted my time, but I had gotten my hopes and my expectations up that there was some help here for me, even though I didn't think there was any before. But I got in my head, because y'all had me come all the way down here, you had me waiting out here. I got in my head that I was going to be helped, and that I literally got nothing. Like, all I got out of that appointment was worse than I was before, you know, like, I was so much worse. So I'm leaving, and I am immediately, I'm walking out of the doctor's office, and I'm, like, so shut down, and I just felt like bursting into tears. I felt like screaming and crying. And I was also still having cramps because of the birth control. I've been getting like random cramps and stuff. So I'm having cramps and I'm already feeling like I want to hurt myself. And you know, that I'm autistic, and now this has happened, and I'm leaving another doctor's appointment feeling unheard and feeling like my time just got wasted and that I didn't get any type of help at all. I was really frustrated, and I got in my car and I just cried. And then my fiance's job was on the way home from the doctor, so I had told him that I was going. And so he was like, okay, well, like, you know, don't stop at my job if you want to. And I was like, I literally look a damn mess. And he was like, I don't care, just if you want to kiss or something. And I was like, okay, I want to kiss. I didn't. I had absolutely no desire to go to his job. It felt like I needed to do it. Like, it felt like I should do that right now. Like, I could probably use the support. So I went, and also just so that he could see me like face to face, because I know that like he was worried about me in general. So I was like, let me, like, I don't want to, but let me go and, you know, see him, get a little support, get a little love. I cried the whole way there. That was like 20 minutes. And then I didn't cry when I was there. We talked for a little while, and he was like, do you like want to go to the hospital? Because like, he was worried about me. Like, and because especially in that moment, I was spiraling because of the doctor. He was like, you remember the hospital? I was like, I don't know. Like, what are they gonna do for me? Because like, I really couldn't decide. I was like, I don't want to go because I don't want to feel like I'm just being dramatic right now. I know I wasn't just being dramatic, but I didn't want to go to the doctor just for them to make me feel that way. You know, I couldn't handle that again. And I really couldn't handle like just going to the doctor in general again. I was like, I can't like sit there and talk to more doctors. I can't explain what I'm experiencing one more time today because I've already done it like 4 times. Like I couldn't. He was like, just like go home and lay down and smoke a bunch of weed. And I was like, unfortunately, smoking a bunch of weed does not even help. I don't even feel anything. So, but he was like, just go home and like lay down. So I went home, sobbed, hyperventilated the whole way home. And then I got home and I laid down and cried for like another like hour. So it was like in total, like I feel like a 3-hour stretch of a meltdown. And I cried so much. My eyes were my eyes just got back to feeling normal like yesterday. Because they were just so dry from crying for so long. At some point, like I was literally just like hyperventilating and still crying, but like no tears were coming out. Finally, I was able to calm down when I realized that I was just having a meltdown. So I really didn't realize that that's what was going on in the moment. I couldn't figure out why. I just couldn't stop crying. I was really frustrated. I saw a cow and I started crying because I was like, damn, I wish that I could just be a cow. Why can't I just be a cow? Because the cow was just sitting there chilling. I was like, that must be fucking nice. Like, I want that. After that, I feel like the next like 24 hours after that meltdown were like really abysmal, very dark. My fiance ended up staying home with me on Tuesday because I was like just like in a very dark place. I was just so exhausted. I had barely slept. And so basically after the meltdown I had, I feel like I was very like catatonic. Is just like the best way that I can describe it. Like every movement that I made was so slow. I could barely tolerate sound at all. Like I couldn't even like stand to sit there and scroll on TikTok because like just sound. I couldn't focus on like social media. I couldn't focus on like games or anything. Like I literally like half the time was just sitting there staring into space because like I would start doing something and then immediately I would be like, I can't do this, otherwise I'm going to kill myself. Like I cannot sit here and play ASMR makeup. And so I was just like staring into space and I was just like exhausted, catatonic, because that was like just such a massive meltdown. I've never had a meltdown that big before, but it was just so massive. So Tuesday was basically just like, I just felt catatonic all day. I felt like I could barely move. When I did move, I just felt like I was walking so slow. I was still having suicidal thoughts, self-harm thoughts, but you know, I just stayed in the bed all day. I slept. I tried to play games and stuff. My fiance was here, so we just cuddled. By like 5:30, like 6 p.m., I was starting to feel a little bit better. I was starting to come back to life, and then I ended up watching a movie, and then after I watched the movie I felt okay, and so then I was reading. It was honestly like not a fun experience. It was very scary to be in that space because I just always think back to how when I was like a teenager, I used to say to myself, like, I would never self-harm. Like, I can never do that. I don't think that I would ever feel badly enough to just hurt myself because like that would just hurt. But then I got to that point as a teenager where I was like, okay, well now I'm self-harming and I get it. So I had always thought that about suicide. I'd always been like, I would never do that. Like, it would never be that bad. Like, even if I want to, like, even if I'm having the thoughts, but like in this, like, a whole experience, like, I feel like I experienced getting to the point of, I just don't want to feel this anymore. Especially when I was having my meltdown on Monday, and it was really bad because I was like laying there crying, and I didn't think that I was gonna hurt myself, but I was just crying because I was like, I cannot like imagine feeling like this until this stuff leaves my system. Like, it's gonna be like 2 or 3 weeks until everything is like completely back to normal, because I'm also getting my period. So I'm like, I just can't fathom feeling like this. Like, I just don't want to feel like this. I just like want something to make it better. Like, I just don't want to feel this way. But I feel like just in general, the whole experience, I got to a point with the suicidal ideation where I was having like more violent urges or just like imagery in my head, imagining things. And it wasn't really fun. It was not a great experience. Did not enjoy it. 0 out of 10 stars. It was actually pretty scary, and I'm sure that it was also very scary for my fiance as well to kind of experience that with me. I'm really grateful that I had him though, because I'm like, I don't know. I don't think I would have hurt myself, but again, I don't know. Because of the state that I was in, I very well could have. So that was my birth control experience. I was on Lacina. So I just wanted to share that because I want, number one, like, I want people to know that, like, if you start a birth control and you start feeling like you're not yourself, or you start experiencing things that like you might usually experience like on your period, you start experiencing that all the time, or things you just might experience like on a daily basis, because I'm autistic, so you know, I experience suicidal ideation because of my burnout and stuff like that. But if you start experiencing it like after starting, like, I mean, honestly, any medication, but especially a hormonal birth control, call your doctor and probably stop taking it. You're not crazy. This is like your PSA that you aren't crazy. I believe you. Just like advocate for yourself. That's something that I'm learning how to do. It's very hard, but I'm trying to figure out a way that works for me. So I think that I'm going to end up writing a letter, or just like an email and sending it through the patient portal, so then they have the notes of everything that I need to talk about, everything that I need to cover, so it's a little bit easier for me to get through. This is as far as I got in the picture. I got bored, so I don't know if I said this in the beginning, but I've been on birth control before, so I really was not expecting to have like this bad of a reaction to it, but it was really awful. And you know, knowing that I had other mental health stuff going on, I feel like my doctor probably could have been a little bit more, I don't know, she could have done a little bit more, maybe check my hormones or something. But best believe that's what's going in the email that I'm going to be writing. As I learn more about advocating for myself and get better at it, I definitely want to pass on my knowledge. So what works for me will end up in a video, don't you worry. If you had a bad experience on birth control, let me know. And if you have beef personally with Lacina, let me know also, because like I do too. Don't forget to give this video a like, hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!